The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a metal ocean. Thousands of seats rose in perfect circles around a central platform where Ambassador Yuna Kim stood alone. The silence was heavy. Every eye in the chamber was watching. Her Yuna kept her back straight and her chin up. She wore the simple black uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. No fancy decorations, no golden medals, just a small blue patch on her shoulder showing planet Earth. That tiny blue dot looked very small in this vast hall, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Above her, holographic displays showed the faces of the most powerful leaders in known space. The Hegemony Alliance controlled over 3,000 star systems. The Crystal Empire ruled another 2,000. The Machine Collective had turned 100 worlds into perfect metal spheres. Together, they had decided that humanity was a problem that needed to be solved. High Chancellor Vorthak stepped forward to the speaking podium. He was tall and thin like a walking stick. His skin was pale blue and covered with small scales that caught the light. When he spoke, his voice echoed through every corner of the massive chamber. Representative of the species known as humans, Vorthak began. His words came out slow and careful. Your people have been found guilty of 17 separate violations of galactic law. You have refused to accept proper guidance from your betters. You have rejected the wisdom of races that ruled the stars when your world was still covered in ice. Yuna said nothing. She had been told to listen first. Your crime is simple, Vorthak continued. You refuse to know your place. When the Threen people were brought into the galactic community, they understood immediately that they were junior partners. When we welcomed the Silicon Collective, they accepted their role with grace. But humans think they are special. A rumble of agreement rose from the assembled aliens. Yuna could see beings with tentacles nodding. Creatures made of living crystal pulsed with light. Machines that looked like walking skeletons clicked their approval. We have decided to be merciful, Vorthak announced. Humanity will be given one final chance to join the galactic community properly. You have exactly 72 standard hours to surrender completely. You will dismantle all military forces. You will accept galactic oversight of your government. You will stop your unauthorized expansion into space. The terms appeared on holographic screens around the chamber. Yuna read them quickly. Total surrender. No human military. No human exploration. No human independence. If you accept these reasonable terms, Vorthak said, humanity will be allowed to exist as a protected species. You will be given safe worlds to live on. Your basic needs will be met. You will be happy. And if we refuse? Yuna asked. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber. Vorthak's scaled face showed something that might have been a smile. Then humanity will cease to exist. Every human world will be sterilized. Every human ship will be destroyed. Every human life will end. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The chamber erupted in clicks and whistles and sounds that human ears could barely understand. But the meaning was clear. Agreement. Approval. The galaxy had spoken. Yuna touched the communication device in her ear. Across space, her words would travel instantly to Earth, to President Donghyun Park sitting in his office in Seoul, to General Minho Choi in his command bunker, to Dr. Jiwon Lee in her laboratory, to all the humans scattered across dozen worlds. I need time to consult with my government, Yuna said. You have 1 hour, Vorthak replied. No more. The chamber began to empty as alien representatives returned to their ships. They had delivered their message. Now they would wait. Most seemed confident about what the answer would be. Humans were young. Humans were weak. Humans would choose survival over pride. Yuna stood alone on the platform as the great hall grew quiet. Her communication device buzzed softly. The connection to Earth was open. Yuna, came President Park's voice. Even across the vast distance of space, she could hear the weight in his words. We heard everything. The whole planet is watching. What are your orders, sir? Yuna asked. She heard voices in the background. Arguments, debates, the sound of a civilization trying to decide its own fate. Some voices called for surrender. Why die for pride? Why risk everything? Surely living under alien rule was better than not living at all, but other voices spoke of freedom, of the right to choose their own path, of the ancestors who had died rather than bow to tyrants, of the children who deserved to grow up free. Finally, President Park's voice returned. Yuna, I'm going to ask you something very important. As the representative of humanity, what do you think we should do? Yuna closed her eyes. She thought about her childhood in Busan, about watching the stars and dreaming of touching them, about her grandfather who had fought in old Earth wars for the simple idea that people should be free, about the first human colony ship leaving Earth to find new worlds. She thought about what it meant to be human. Not perfect, not the strongest, not the smartest, but stubborn, unwilling to give up, unwilling to bow. Sir, she said quietly, I think we should tell them what humans do when someone tries to make us slaves. An hour later, the great hall filled again. Thousands of alien beings took their seats. They expected to hear words of surrender. They expected humanity to choose the smart choice, the safe choice. High Chancellor Vorthak returned to his podium. Representative of humanity, he called. What is your answer? Yuna Kim walked to the center of the platform. She looked up at the thousands of faces watching her. She thought about the billions of humans on Earth and the colonies, all waiting for her words. She took a deep breath. High Chancellor, she said, her voice clear and strong. The Human Republic has considered your generous offer very carefully. We have discussed your terms. We have thought about your promise of safety and comfort. The chamber was completely silent. Our answer is no. A sound like thunder rolled through the great hall. Clicking and whistling and sounds of shock and anger. But Yuna kept talking. We choose to remain free. We choose to make our own mistakes. We choose to find our own path among the stars. We will not surrender. We will not bow. We will not become pets in your galactic zoo. Vorthak's blue face had turned almost white. You refuse? You choose extinction over wisdom? We choose freedom over safety, Yuna replied. We choose dignity over comfort. We choose to stay human. She turned to face the thousands of alien beings around her. You want to destroy us? Try. But know this. We will not go quietly. We will not make it easy, and we will not be the last species to tell you no. The communication ended. Around the chamber, alien leaders began making urgent calls to their fleets. War was coming. But down on the platform, Ambassador Yuna Kim smiled. She had delivered humanity's answer to the galaxy. They had chosen to fight. They had chosen to be free. The die was cast. The war would begin. And somewhere in the depths of space, human ships were already moving. Captain Sung-Oh Yoon stood on the bridge of his destroyer Soul's Pride and watched something impossible happen. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Nari Shin, was working at her station with movements so fast they seemed like a blur. Her fingers danced across the controls like she was playing a piano. The readouts on her screen changed faster than any human should be able to read them. Captain, she said without looking up, I've calculated battle plans for 17 different attack scenarios. Also figured out how to improve our shield generators by 30%. And I think I know how to hack alien communication systems. Seung-ho blinked. 3 hours ago, Lieutenant Shin had been a good officer, but nothing special. Now she was working like someone had replaced her brain with a computer. When did you learn to hack alien systems? He asked. Shin finally looked up. Her eyes were bright and alert in a way that seemed almost electric. I didn't learn it. I just looked at the captured alien equipment and suddenly understood how it worked. Like reading a book written in a language I've always known. This was happening all across human space. On every ship, every colony, every station, humans were changing. On Mars colony, Dr. Taehyung Kang made a discovery that would change everything. He had been studying human blood samples taken since the war began. What he found made him call an emergency meeting with Colonial Administrator Subin Ryu and Commander Jae-hyun-oh. Look at this, he said, pointing to images on his screen. These are human brain scans from before the war started, and these are scans from yesterday. The difference was clear even to non-doctors. The recent scans showed much more activity. Parts of the brain that had been dark were now blazing with light. "What does it mean?" Commander O asked. "I think the stress of facing extinction triggered something in our DNA," Dr. Kang explained. "Something that was always there but sleeping. Our brains are rewiring themselves. Our reflexes are getting faster. Our ability to solve problems is growing every day." Administrator Ryu leaned forward. "Are you saying we're evolving?" "Not evolving. Awakening. Like we were designed for this but needed the right trigger to activate it." Commander O was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "The aliens picked a fight with the wrong species. On Earth, President Donghyun Park was getting reports from across human territory. Every military base, every research facility, every colony was reporting the same thing. Humans were becoming more than they had been. General Minho Choi brought him the latest intelligence reports. "Sir, our pilots are flying like they've had 20 years of experience instead of 20 weeks. Our engineers are solving problems that should take months in just hours. Our soldiers are moving and thinking like they were born for war." "What about the alien technology we captured?" Park asked. Science Director Ji-Won Lee answered. "We're not just understanding it, we're improving it. Lieutenant Commander Soo-Young Park took apart an alien weapon yesterday. Today she built a better version using parts from a broken coffee machine." Intelligence Chief Hyemin Song added her report. "The psychological effects are just as important. Our people aren't afraid anymore. They're angry. They want to fight." Park nodded slowly. He had felt the change in himself too. Decisions that would have taken him days to make were now clear in minutes. Problems that once seemed impossible now had obvious solutions. "How long do we have before the alien fleets arrive?" he asked. "First scouts should reach our outer colonies in 6 days, General Choi replied. "Then we need to be ready," Park said. "Send word to all human territories. We're not just defending ourselves anymore. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity." On the mining station at Kepler 442, Foreman Min Jae-on was discovering that his workers could now operate alien machinery like they had built it themselves. Miners who had never seen advanced technology were programming systems that alien engineers needed years to understand. "It's like the machines want to work for us," said miner Yeren Jung. She was operating a massive alien excavator that the previous alien owners had said was too complex for primitive human minds. "I just touch the controls and somehow know what to do." But the changes weren't just about technology. Humans were thinking differently too. They were seeing patterns that had been invisible before, making connections that jumped across impossible gaps. Communications specialist Corporal Beomgyu Yoon was monitoring alien transmissions when he made a breakthrough. "I can understand them," he told his commanding officer. "Not the words, but the way they think. They're scared." "Scared of what?" the commander asked. "Us. They expected us to surrender immediately. When we didn't, they sent scouts to see what we were planning. But the scouts aren't reporting back what they expected to hear." "What are they reporting?" Beomgyu smiled. "That humans are behaving like humans, and the aliens are starting to remember why that's terrifying." The first alien scout ships arrived at the edges of human space, expecting to find a broken, desperate species ready to beg for mercy. Instead, they found something that made their commanders send urgent messages back to the Galactic Council. The humans weren't running. They weren't hiding. They were preparing for war with an efficiency and determination that seemed impossible for such a young species. Captain Daeun Lim commanded a small patrol ship near the Vega system when the first alien scouts appeared. Her ship was tiny compared to the alien vessel. By every rule of space combat, she should have either run or been destroyed. Instead, she did something the aliens didn't expect. She attacked. Her ship moved like it was alive, dancing around the alien vessel's weapons. Every shot she fired hit exactly where it would do the most damage. In 12 minutes, the alien scout ship was disabled and drifting. "This is Captain Lim. To all human forces," she broadcast. "First contact successful. Enemy ship captured intact. They bleed just like anything else." Across human space, other patrol ships were having similar encounters. Small human vessels were defeating much larger alien ships through superior tactics, faster reflexes, and something the aliens had forgotten existed: the will to win. On Earth, President Park received the battle reports with satisfaction. The awakening was complete. Humanity had become something new, something dangerous. Send a message to all colony governors and ship commanders, he ordered. Tell them the war has begun. Tell them to show the galaxy what humans do when someone threatens their freedom. General Choi asked, "What about the aliens who are coming to destroy us?" Park smiled. For the first time since the crisis began, he felt completely confident. Let them come. They wanted to see what humans are capable of when we're fighting for our lives. They're about to find out. The transformation was complete. Humanity had awakened to its true potential. Now the galaxy would learn why that was the most dangerous thing that could happen. The Battle of Proxima Centauri was supposed to be a simple extermination mission. 300 alien warships against 37 human vessels. Fleet Admiral Youngman Jang knew the mathematics were impossible. His fleet should have been destroyed in the first 5 minutes. But mathematics had never met humanity before. Admiral Jang stood on the bridge of his flagship Indomitable and watched the alien fleet approach. They came in perfect formation, like a parade, beautiful and deadly, and absolutely confident in their victory. "All ships, this is Admiral Jang," he broadcast to his small fleet. "Today we show the galaxy what humans are made of. We don't surrender. We don't retreat. We win." The alien fleet commander sent a transmission. The voice was cold and mechanical, through the translation system. "Human vessels, you are completely outnumbered. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Jang looked at his tactical display. His enhanced mind could see patterns and possibilities that would have been invisible to him just weeks ago. The alien formation was perfect for intimidation, but perfect formations had weaknesses. "This is Admiral Jang of the Human Republic Navy," he replied. "Our response to your generous offer is the same as always. No." Squadron leader Yoonji Park sat in the cockpit of her fighter craft and felt her heartbeat slow to a perfect, steady rhythm. Around her, 17 other fighters from her squadron were doing the same thing. They were outnumbered 20-1. In any normal universe, they would all be dead in minutes. But this wasn't a normal universe anymore. This was a universe where humans had awakened. "Blue Squadron, this is Leader Park," she said over the communication system. "Remember what we learned in training. The aliens think in straight lines, we think in curves. Use that." Her wingman Lieutenant Sunwoo Kim responded, "Ready to show them how humans fly, Leader." The battle began when the alien fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams lit up space like deadly fireworks. The human ships scattered like leaves in a windstorm. But they didn't scatter randomly. Every movement was calculated. Every dodge was planned. Admiral Jang watched his ships dance between the alien weapons. His enhanced mind tracked dozens of battles at once. The destroyer Busan's Hammer was fighting 3 alien cruisers and winning. The frigate Mountain Tiger was somehow managing to disable ships 10 times its size. But the real shock came from his fighter squadrons. Squadron leader Park's fighter moved through space like a living thing. She rolled and twisted around enemy fire, her enhanced reflexes letting her dodge weapons that moved at the speed of light. Her return fire was precise and devastating. Every shot hit exactly where it would cause the most damage. Lieutenant Kim had spotted something that changed everything. The alien dreadnought at the center of their formation had weapons that could destroy entire planets. But it also had a weakness. "Leader Park," he called over the communication system. "The big ship has a blind spot directly beneath its main weapon array. If I can get there—" "Negative, Sunwoo," Park replied. "Too dangerous." "With respect, Leader, everything we're doing today is too dangerous. That's what makes it fun." Before she could stop him, Kim dove his fighter toward the massive dreadnought. Alien point defense weapons tracked him, filling space with deadly energy. But Kim flew like he had been born in the cockpit, weaving through the fire like he could see the future. He reached the blind spot and fired everything his fighter had. The explosion that followed lit up half the solar system. On the ground, Colonel Hanul Bay was leading a boarding action against an alien command ship. Her strike team had managed to dock with the enemy vessel using a captured alien transport. Now they were fighting their way through corridors designed for beings twice their size. Sergeant Guman Lee, Take your team left, she ordered. Sergeant Che Young-yoon, go right. Find their command center, I'll go straight through. The aliens had never fought humans in close combat before. They expected primitive beings with simple weapons. Instead, they faced soldiers who moved like shadows and fought like demons. Sergeant Lee's team encountered a squad of alien warriors in powered armor. The aliens were bigger, stronger, and better armed, but they moved slowly, thinking in patterns that had worked for thousands of years. The humans moved like water, flowing around their enemies' attacks and striking where it hurt most. Lee himself disabled an armored alien using nothing but a knife, and an understanding of alien anatomy he had somehow acquired in the last few days. Colonel Bay reached the command center first. The alien commander was tall and covered in scales, with 4 arms and weapons that could cut through steel. But he had never fought someone who could predict his movements. The fight lasted 30 seconds. When it was over, the alien commander was unconscious and Bay was uploading the contents of their computer systems to human intelligence. Back in space, Admiral Zhang was winning a battle that should have been impossible. His 37 ships had destroyed or disabled over 100 alien vessels. The remaining aliens were retreating in disorder, their perfect formation broken. All ships cease fire, Zhang ordered. Let the survivors go. I want them to tell their friends what happened here. Intelligence Officer Jisoo Park was already at work interrogating captured alien prisoners. What she learned was more valuable than any weapon. Admiral, she reported, the aliens have been fighting the same way for over 1,000 years. They've never faced an enemy that adapts and improvises. They don't know how to handle opponents who refuse to follow the rules. The alien prisoner she was questioning was a military commander with centuries of experience, but he looked at humans like they were something from a nightmare. Your species is impossible, he said through the translator. You learn too fast. You change too quickly. You fight like you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. That's because we do, Officer Park replied. You threatened our families. You threatened our freedom. That makes us very dangerous. News of the victory at Proxima Centauri spread across the galaxy faster than light. The impossible had happened. Humans had won a battle they should have, lost by every measure of military science. On Earth, President Donghyun Park received the reports with grim satisfaction. The first battle was over, but the war was just beginning. How many alien ships did we capture intact? He asked General Choi. 17, including 2 heavy cruisers and a command vessel. And prisoners? Over 3,000. Intelligence says they're very eager to talk. Science Director Lee had the most interesting news. Sir, our analysis of captured alien technology shows something remarkable. It's not actually better than ours. It's just different. And now that we understand it, we can build better versions. What about casualties? Park asked quietly. General Choi smiled. Remarkably light, sir. It seems that our enhanced abilities include being very hard to kill. Park nodded. The transformation was complete. Humanity had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that grew stronger under pressure, a species that turned impossible odds into victory. Send word to all human territories, he ordered. The first battle is won. Now we prepare for the second, and the third, and however many it takes to show the galaxy that humanity will never surrender. The alien survivors would return to their fleets with stories of impossible human warriors who fought like gods and won battles that couldn't be won. Soon, the entire galaxy would know that the war had truly begun, and humanity was ready for whatever came next. 6 months after the Battle of Proxima Centauri, the war had spread across half the galaxy. What the Galactic Council had planned as a quick extermination had become their worst nightmare. Human forces were not just surviving, they were winning. General Woo-jin Choi stood in the command center on Mars and looked at the holographic map of known space. Red dots showed alien-controlled systems. Blue dots showed human territory. But now there were green dots too, liberated worlds where humans had broken the chains of galactic oppression. His aide, Captain Daeon Lim, brought him the latest reports. Sir, the liberation of Kepler 442 is complete. Admiral Ariam Choi's fleet destroyed the alien garrison without losing a single ship. The mining colonies are free. General Choi nodded. The liberation of Kepler had been important for more than just military reasons. It was the first time humans had fought to free other species rather than just defend themselves. "What about the alien prisoners from that operation?" he asked. "That's the interesting part, sir. They're not just prisoners anymore. Many of them are volunteering to join our forces." This was happening everywhere humans fought. The galaxy had been told that humans were violent, primitive, and dangerous. But the beings they liberated found something very different. They found humans who fought for freedom, who treated prisoners with respect, and who offered hope instead of just conquest. Commander Kyung-Soo Han had just completed his most challenging mission yet. His special operations team had infiltrated the heavily fortified alien base on Vega Prime. The operation was supposed to take 3 days of careful planning and execution. They had finished it in 4 hours. "How did you do it so fast?" General Choi asked when Han reported in. "Simple, sir. We didn't follow their rules. They expected us to sneak in quietly, disable their security, and extract intelligence. Instead, we walked in the front door, convinced half their guards to switch sides, and had their own security system help us download their files." Han's team had included demolitions expert Sergeant Yeren Jung and communications specialist Corporal Min-jae An. But their most valuable member had been Private Yun Woo-song, who had somehow learned to speak 17 different alien languages in the past month. "The key was communication," Han explained. "Most of the aliens defending that base weren't there by choice. They were conscripts from conquered worlds, forced to serve the Council. When we explained that we were fighting for their freedom too, they started helping us. This was humanity's greatest weapon, and the aliens were only beginning to understand it. Humans didn't just fight to win, they fought to liberate. Every battle created more allies and fewer enemies." Diplomatic envoy Yun Woo-song had been working, in secret for months, making contact with oppressed species throughout the galaxy. Her latest meeting was with representatives from the Threen Republic, a proud warrior culture that had been crushed by the Council centuries ago. The Threen commander was named Gulak. He was 8 feet tall, covered in silver scales, and had fought the Council for 50 years before being captured. Now he sat across from Song in a hidden meeting place on a neutral world. "Why should we trust humans?" Gulak asked. "Every species promises freedom. Every species turns into conquerors eventually." Song looked at him calmly. "Because we're not asking you to trust us. We're asking you to fight alongside us, keep your ships, keep your weapons, keep your independence. All we want is to stand together against tyranny. And when the war is over, what then? Then we shake hands and go our separate ways. If you want to trade with us, great. If you want nothing to do with us, that's fine too. Freedom means the right to choose your own path." Gulak was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "The Council told us that humans were monsters who would enslave the galaxy. The Council tells everyone that about their enemies," Song replied. "The question is, what do you believe?" 3 days later, the first Threen battle fleet joined a human task force in attacking a Council supply depot. The aliens defending the depot had never faced combined human Threen tactics before. The battle was over before they understood what had hit them. Captain Jamin Moon found himself commanding one of the most unusual fleets in galactic history. His task force included human destroyers, Threen battle cruisers, and ships from the Silicon Collective, crystalline vessels that looked like flying diamonds. His first officer was Lieutenant Commander Soo-young Park, who had become an expert at coordinating between completely different military traditions. The Threen fought with honor and direct assault. The Silicon beings preferred precise mathematical tactics. Humans did whatever worked. "Sir," Park reported, "we're approaching the target system. Intelligence says the aliens have a major shipyard there, plus a prison complex holding captured rebels from 12 different species." Moon studied the tactical display. The alien defenses were strong but predictable. They expected attackers to come in formation, follow standard tactics, and fight according to established rules. They were about to learn that humans had never been good at following rules. "Send word to all ships," Moon ordered. We're not here to capture this system. We're here to free it. Every slave, every prisoner, every being held against their will. That's our mission. The battle for the Arcturus shipyards became legendary across the galaxy. Instead of a standard military assault, the combined fleet used tactics that seemed impossible to the defenders. Human ships disguised themselves as cargo vessels and flew right past the outer defenses. Threen warriors teleported directly onto enemy bridges and challenged their commanders to single combat. Silicon collective vessels used their crystalline hulls to redirect enemy weapons back at their own ships. But the real breakthrough came from the prisoners themselves. Major In-High, Kim had been working with the Psychological Warfare Division. Instead of simply attacking the prison complex, her team broadcast messages directly to the inmates. The messages were simple. Help is coming. Be ready. When the assault began, the aliens found themselves fighting enemies outside their walls and inside their prisons. Liberated prisoners knew exactly where the weapon stores were, which corridors led to critical systems, and how to disable the security systems. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the shipyard was destroyed. 12,000 prisoners were free, and the aliens had lost an entire fleet without inflicting significant casualties on the attackers. Intelligence analyst Junho Park made the most important discovery. Hidden in the captured files was the location of the Galactic Council's Strategic Command Center, the place where all their military operations were planned and coordinated. "Sir," he reported to General Choi, "if we can take this facility, we could cripple their ability to coordinate the war effort." General Choi looked at the information carefully. The command center was on a heavily defended world deep in Council territory. Getting there would require crossing through dozens of enemy systems. "It's suicide," Captain Lim observed. "Maybe," General Choi agreed, "but so was everything else we've done so far, and we're still here." Strike Team Leader Captain Minjio was already studying the mission parameters with her assault specialists. Sergeants Beomgyu Yoon and Yeon Choi were experts at impossible infiltrations. If anyone could reach the command center, it was them. "We'll need a distraction," Captain O said. "Something big enough to draw their attention away from their most important facility." General Choi smiled. "I think we can arrange that. How does a full-scale assault on their fortress world sound?" "Like the kind of impossible plan that might actually work," O replied. Across human space, fleets were mobilizing for the largest military operation in human history. Not just human ships now, but vessels from dozens of liberated worlds. Species that had been enemies for millennia now flew together under the banner of freedom. The galaxy was changing. The old order of conquest and submission was breaking down. In its place, something new was growing. An alliance built not on fear or force, but on the simple idea that all sentient beings deserved the right to choose their own destiny. The Galactic Council was about to face the consequences of awakening humanity. They had wanted to destroy a single troublesome species. Instead, they had created a revolution that was spreading across the stars. The war was far from over, but for the first time in galactic history, the oppressed had real hope of victory, and that hope had a name: humanity. The recruitment of alien allies marked the moment when the war truly changed. Captain Jamin Moon stood on the bridge of his flagship Harmony and watched the impossible sight before him. Human destroyers flew in formation with Threen battle cruisers and Silicon collective diamond ships. Species that had been killing each other for thousands of years were now working together. His first officer, Lieutenant Commander Soo-Young Park, had spent weeks developing new communication protocols. Each species had different ideas about military honor, tactical doctrine, and command structure. Getting them to work together should have been impossible, but humans had always been good at making the impossible happen. "Captain," Park reported, "all fleet elements are ready for the assault on Dominion Prime. The Threen commander says his warriors are eager to settle old debts with the Council. The Silicon Collective has calculated attack vectors that give us a 73% chance of success." Moon nodded. Dominion Prime was the fortress world where the Galactic Council made its most important decisions. Taking it would be like cutting the head off the enemy's command structure. but the planet was defended by weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "What do our human strategists say about our chances?" Moon asked. Park smiled. "General Seojin Lee says percentages are for people who don't understand that humans don't accept defeat as an option." General Lee was commanding the ground assault from his headquarters ship Determination. He had spent months studying the defenses of Dominion Prime. The planet was surrounded by orbital weapons platforms, protected by energy shields, and defended by the most elite units in the galaxy. It should have been unbreakable. But Lee had learned something important about fortress worlds. They were built to keep armies out. They weren't designed to deal with enemies who thought differently about warfare. "Admiral Ariam Choi, what's the status of the orbital bombardment?" he asked over the communication system. Admiral Choi commanded, "The fleet's heavy units from her flagship Thunder of Seoul." "All ships ready, General, but those shields are strong. It could take weeks of bombardment to break through." "We don't have weeks," Lee replied. "But we don't need to break the shields, we just need to make them think we're trying to." The siege of Dominion Prime began with exactly the kind of assault the defenders expected. Massive human warships bombarded the planetary shields while fighter squadrons probed for weaknesses. The aliens settled in for a long defensive battle. They had no idea what was really happening. While the fleet kept the defenders busy, information warfare specialist Major In-Hai, Kim and her team were conducting a very different kind of assault. Instead of bombs and energy weapons, they were using words and ideas. Kim had studied the population of Dominion Prime for months. The planet was home to billions of beings from hundreds of different species. Most of them weren't there by choice. They were bureaucrats and workers and slaves who kept the Council's government running. "Begin transmission," Kim ordered her team. Across the planet, every communication screen, every data terminal, every information display suddenly showed the same message. It wasn't a threat or a demand for surrender. It was something much more dangerous truth. The transmission showed footage from liberated worlds. Former Council slaves working alongside their liberators. Mixed fleets of different species fighting together by choice rather than force. Children from a dozen different races playing together on worlds where freedom had replaced oppression. "People of Dominion Prime," Kim's voice said in 100 different languages. "You have been told that the human republic wants to conquer and enslave you, but look at these images. See what liberation really means. We don't want to rule you. We want to free you." The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the planet, beings who had served the Council out of fear began to question their loyalty. Work crews started sabotaging weapon systems. Government officials began providing intelligence to the human forces. The breakthrough came when intelligence analyst Junho Park discovered the location of the Council's strategic command center. It wasn't in the heavily defended capital city. It was hidden in an industrial complex where no one would think to look. "Sir," he reported to General Lee, "I've found their command center, but it's protected by a different kind of defense. They're using civilian workers as human shields." Lee studied the intelligence reports. The command center was inside a factory complex that employed thousands of alien workers. Attacking it directly would mean killing innocent beings. "Then we don't attack it," Lee decided. "We liberate it." Strike Team Leader Captain Minji. O received what might have been the strangest military order in history. Infiltrate an enemy command center and capture it without harming any civilians. "Sir," she said to General Lee, "my team specializes in impossible missions, but this one might actually be impossible." "Captain," Lee replied, "6 months ago the entire war was impossible. We did it anyway." O assembled her team carefully. Sergeants Byung-gyu Yoon and Yuan Choi were experts at moving unseen through enemy territory. But for this mission, she needed different skills. She recruited Private Yunwoo Song, who could speak dozens of alien languages, Corporal Min-jae An, who understood alien psychology, and surprisingly, Dr. Taehyung Kang, the scientist who had first discovered humanity's awakening. "Doctor," O said, "with respect, you're not a soldier." "No," Kang agreed, "but I understand how different species think. If we're going to convince thousands of alien workers to help us capture their own command center, we need someone who can explain why that's the right thing to do." The infiltration began 3 days later. O's team didn't sneak into the complex. They walked in the front entrance disguised as ordinary workers reporting for their shifts. The disguises were perfect because they weren't really disguises. Dr. Kang had realized that the complex employed members of dozens of different species. A few more wouldn't be noticed, especially if they acted like they belonged there. "Remember," O whispered to her team as they split up, "we're not here to fight. We're here to liberate. Every being in this complex is a potential ally, not an enemy." Private Song made contact first. She approached a group of Threen workers in the fabrication department and spoke to them in their native language. Their supervisor was a council loyalist who treated them like slaves. "What if I told you," Song said quietly, "that there were Threen battle fleets outside fighting alongside humans for your freedom?" The workers didn't believe her at first, but when she showed them recorded messages from the liberated Threen worlds, everything changed. Within hours, the factory workers had become a secret army. They knew every corridor, every security checkpoint, every way to move through the complex without being detected. More importantly, they knew exactly where the real command center was hidden. Sergeant Yoon infiltrated the security department by convincing the guards that he was a new transfer from another facility. His enhanced human abilities let him operate alien security systems like he had designed them himself. "Captain," he reported, "I can disable their internal defenses, but only for about 10 minutes before they figure out what's happening." 10 minutes is all we need," O replied. The assault on the command center began when Dr. Kang made an announcement over the factory's communication system. Speaking in every language used in the complex, he explained what was really happening in the galaxy. "The Council has told you that humans are monsters who want to enslave you," his voice said. "But look around. Are the monsters the ones who came here to kill you, or the ones who came here to free you?" The alien workers had a choice. They could defend the system that had oppressed them, or they could help destroy it. They chose freedom. When Captain O's team reached the command center, they found it defended by the most elite Council forces. But they also found something the aliens hadn't expected: thousands of factory workers who were no longer willing to be slaves. The battle was over before it really began. The Council forces were outnumbered 1,000 to 1 by beings they had considered harmless servants. Their own security systems had been turned against them. Their communication networks were broadcasting human liberation messages to every corner of the galaxy. For the first time in galactic history, the Galactic Council found itself fighting a defensive war against an enemy that grew stronger with every victory. "Command center secured," O reported to General Lee. "Casualties minimal. Prisoners, about 50 Council officials. New allies, approximately 40,000 factory workers who want to join the Liberation Fleet." General Lee smiled. The siege of Dominion Prime had achieved something more important than military victory. It had proven that the human way of warfare could work on any scale, against any enemy. The old galactic order was based on fear and force. Species obeyed the Council because they had no choice. But humans had given them a choice. And once beings tasted freedom, they would never accept slavery again. The war was entering its final phase. Soon, the Galactic Council would face the ultimate consequence of their decision to threaten humanity: the end of their empire and the birth of something new. An alliance built not on conquest but on the simple idea that all sentient beings deserved the right to determine their own fate. 2 years after Ambassador Yuna Kim had refused the Galactic Council's ultimatum, she stood in the same great hall where it had all begun. But everything had changed. The chamber that once held only alien representatives now buzzed with the voices of hundreds of species, many of whom had never been allowed to speak before. Kim was no longer a lone human facing the judgment of the galaxy. She stood at the center of a delegation that represented the Free Galactic Alliance, a coalition of liberated worlds that had chosen cooperation over domination. Beside her stood General Hyunwoo Bae, the hero of the Vega campaign, and Admiral Jimin Seo, whose fleet had liberated 17 star systems. But they weren't the only humans present. The delegation included representatives from dozens of species that had joined humanity's fight for freedom. High Chancellor Vorthak was still there, but he no longer commanded the respect he once had. His pale blue skin looked almost gray now, and his once confident voice shook as he spoke. "This is madness," he said to the assembled delegates. "You cannot simply dissolve an order that has maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years. Ambassador Kim stepped forward. "High Chancellor, with respect, you didn't maintain peace, you maintained silence. There's a difference." The chamber erupted in sounds that human ears were still learning to interpret. Clicking from the insect-like Zephyrians, musical tones from the crystal beings of Harmony Prime, deep rumbles from the rock people of Granite 7. But Kim could understand the meaning now. Agreement. President Donghyun Park appeared on the main holographic display, transmitting from Earth. He looked older than he had 2 years ago, but his eyes were bright with satisfaction. "Citizens of the galaxy," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of known space. "Today we witness the birth of something new. Not another empire built on conquest, but an alliance built on choice. The terms of the new Galactic Constitution were simple but revolutionary. Every species would govern itself as it saw fit. No world could be forced to join the alliance, but no world could force others to submit either. Trade would be free, communication would be open, and disputes would be settled through negotiation rather than warfare. Most importantly, any species that chose tyranny over freedom would find itself alone in the galaxy." Former council member Korvac of the Hegemony Alliance stood to speak. He was one of the few alien leaders who had switched sides during the war, bringing his entire fleet with him when he realized that the council's days were numbered. "I have served the old order for 3 centuries, he said, his mechanical voice echoing through the hall. "I believed it was the only way to maintain stability, but I have seen what the humans call freedom in action. I have seen former enemies work together by choice rather than force. This is stronger than any empire built on fear." The signing ceremony took place where the ultimatum had been delivered. One by one, representatives from hundreds of worlds signed the Free Galactic Alliance Charter. Each signature represented a species choosing to join, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. General Bay watched with quiet satisfaction as former enemies shook hands. The Threen commander who had once fought against the Council now stood beside a Silicon Collective representative, planning joint exploration missions to uncharted regions of space. Admiral Seo was already coordinating the new Alliance fleet. Ships from dozens of worlds flying together not to conquer but to explore, to defend the weak, to ensure that no species would ever again face extinction for refusing to bow. But the most important moment came when High Chancellor Vorthak himself approached the signing table. The last representative of the old order stood before the document that would end his empire. "If I sign this," he said quietly to Ambassador Kim, "what guarantee do I have that humanity won't simply replace the Council with your own empire?" Kim looked at him with something that might have been sympathy. "You have the same guarantee every free species has, Chancellor. The right to choose your own path. If humanity ever tries to become what the Council was, you have the right to resist. That's what freedom means." Vorthak stared at the document for a long moment. Then, with a hand that shook only slightly, he signed his name. The Galactic Council was officially dissolved. As the ceremony ended, Kim found herself standing alone for a moment in the Great Hall. She thought about the journey that had brought them here, the fear in those first days when extinction seemed certain, the discovery of humanity's hidden potential, the battles that had seemed impossible until they were won. Captain Minjio approached, still wearing her military uniform, but with the insignia of the new Alliance peacekeeping force. "Ambassador," she said, "intelligence reports are coming in from across the galaxy. Some species are having trouble adjusting to the idea of freedom. There are conflicts breaking out on several worlds." Kim nodded. "Freedom isn't easy. It requires responsibility. Some beings will struggle with that after millennia of being told what to do." "What are our orders?" Kim smiled. "We help them figure it out. Not by forcing our way on them, but by showing them what's possible when people choose to work together." On Earth, celebrations were beginning in every major city. President Park stood on the balcony of his office and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were exploring new worlds alongside alien allies. Human children were learning languages from species that had been enemies just 2 years ago. General Minho Choi joined him on the balcony. "Sir, what do you think the galaxy will look like in 100 years? Park was quiet for a moment. "I don't know, General, but I know it will be whatever we choose to make it. And for the first time in galactic history, every species gets to participate in that choice." Science Director Ji-Wan Lee had the most interesting news of all. "Sir, our research into human enhancement is showing remarkable results. But it's not just humans anymore. Several allied species are showing similar adaptations. It seems that the potential for growth was always there, waiting for the right conditions." "What conditions?" Park asked. "Hope, sir. The belief that the future can be better than the past. The knowledge that someone is willing to fight for your freedom. It's contagious." Intelligence Chief Hyeman Song brought the final report of the war. "Sir, casualty figures are complete. We lost fewer people in 2 years of galactic war than we did in a single day during some of Earth's historical conflicts." "How is that possible?" Park asked. Song smiled. "Because we weren't trying to destroy our enemies, sir. We were trying to liberate them. It turns out that makes all the difference." As the celebrations continued across human space and beyond, Ambassador Kim returned to her quarters aboard the diplomatic station orbiting the former Council homeworld. She looked out at the stars and thought about what they had accomplished. Humanity had been given a choice: surrender or die. They had chosen a third option: win. But they hadn't just won a war. They had won something much more important. They had proven that freedom was not just a human concept. It was a universal principle that applied to all sentient life. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges. There would be conflicts to resolve, problems to solve, and new species to welcome into the alliance. But for the first time in recorded history, every being in the galaxy had the right to determine their own fate. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Kim activated her communication system and saw the face of a young human officer aboard an exploration vessel at the edge of known space. "Ambassador, this is Lieutenant Ji-Hyo Kang reporting from the exploration ship New Horizon. We've made contact with a previously unknown species in the Outer Rim. They're asking about joining the Alliance." Kim smiled. The work was just beginning. "Tell them what we tell everyone, Lieutenant. Freedom is a choice. If they want it, they're welcome to join us. If they prefer their own path, that's fine too. The Alliance exists to protect choice, not eliminate it." "Understood, Ambassador. They seem very interested. Apparently they've been watching our war with the Council and wondering if freedom was possible for them too." As the transmission ended, Kim looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, countless species were making the same discovery that humanity had made 2 years ago, that freedom was worth fighting for. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Kim thought, was the most beautiful thing of all. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, full of infinite possibilities for beings who were finally free to explore them together. The age of empires was over. The age of alliance had begun. And it had all started with one simple word, spoken by a human ambassador who refused to surrender: no.